All right. Doesn't seem like we're going to have any dropped frames today. Woo! I think we're good to go. So let's rock and roll. All right. Early start to the program today. I gotta skedaddle and try to get downtown to deal with some technical stuff for work. You can see the mess of cables I got here. But a little bit later on, I'm going to be delving deeper into some other stuff as far as where things point to and routers and all that jazz. It's going to be a good time. But in the meantime, of course, here from my home studio, hanging out with you each and every weekday morning, it is Bishop on Air. And seems like the stream's going good now. I've got several people in the studio saying thumbs up, good morning, how's the stream now? You tell me. It shows me that I've got good internet. It says there have been 0 dropped frames. So I think we're good to go. I think, as maybe former Rod Blagojevich, governor of Illinois, would say, it looks bleeping golden. So let's see what we can make happen here today. Appreciate you guys' patience yesterday. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was just my upload speeds were real bad, because I was able to have that conversation with attorney Thomas DeVore without any problems. It's just streaming it back in the upside wasn't necessarily working, but either way, if you didn't get a chance to see that interview in its entirety, you can see it on my YouTube channel. Just search Bishop on Air as we broadcast each and every weekday morning live on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Again, just search Bishop on Air and we can connect that way. A little bit of an early start to today. Again, I'm going to be trying to hit the roads. Still kind of a mess out there. Yesterday was ice covered, but the temperatures increased a bit, so I'm hoping that the slosh is going to give me enough traction to get where I need to go today. But we'll take a look at the latest comments from Governor J.B. Pritzker on the issue of immigration, especially in the context of the U.S. Supreme Court saying that the federal government can move that razor wire that Texas has put up at the southern U.S. border. Plus, we'll delve into the latest numbers from Illinois State Police when it comes to the gun ban registry, especially now that we're, 3 weeks into after the deadline to register. And as we talked about yesterday, the state says they can't enforce any penalties against people that don't register their guns because they don't want to register. The only penalty comes if you're found in possession of that as an unregistered firearm. So we'll delve into that as well, all right? It's right here with Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Appreciate you guys taking the time with me each and every weekday morning. Stay tuned. More coming up.
But I also expect that number to increase as people recognize that they want to be law-abiding citizens and they want to be consistent with state law, and they will register their existing legacy weapons. Otherwise, they're risking their FOID card. And I think the vast majority of people are just committed to being law-abiding citizens the way they are now.
Risk losing their FOID card because they don't register? Risk losing their FOID card because they get found with an unregistered firearm for the first offense, or risk losing their FOID card because they're found with an unregistered firearm on a second offense? Well, some interesting things to review here is we've got new numbers from Illinois State Police indicating that after the January 1st deadline, An additional 5,900 people registered banned firearms with the state of Illinois State Police. Welcome back. It's Bishop on Air. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for taking time with me each and every weekday morning as we stream live. And let's go ahead and take a look at the latest Illinois State Police numbers. I don't know when these were published. I looked at them yesterday morning. Either I oversaw this portion or I just didn't see it. But I did indeed, after the program, see that they have updated these numbers from January 1st to the 16th. So they must have published these last week, and I just did not see them. But as you can see here, you've got the latest numbers from Illinois State Police showing that, of course, before the deadline, between October 1st and December 31st, you had 29,357 people register banned firearms with the state of Illinois, for a total number of firearms close to 69,000 firearms. So that's a little over 2 per person. So we knew this number going into it, right? And after the deadline, a lot of talk about those who didn't register. You even had former State Senator Darren Bailey say he's not going to comply, and that the governor can come take the firearms from, I'm going to kind of just paraphrase, his cold dead hands, right? So you have this ongoing conversation, and even Illinois State Police have indicated they're going to keep that registry open. But why is there a deadline in the state law? It's an interesting question. And if you recall, earlier on in the registration process between October 1st and January 1st, the numbers were, 0. some odd percent of total FOID card holders, firearm owner identification card holders. There's about 2.4 million, which for some reason this number has not increased for months. I don't know why, but I know there's more people applying for FOID cards. So it's interesting to find out why this number's not increased. But either way. So you've got 2.4 million FOID card holders, people who are firearm owner ID card holders, and only about 30,000 registered. That comes out to about 1.2% of total FOID card holders in the state of Illinois that told state police they own a banned firearm. That January 1st deadline came and went, and we were told that they were going to keep the registry open, and sure enough, they kept the registry open, and an additional 5,867 people within just about 2.5 weeks' time registered banned firearms, for a total number of firearms of 11,161. All of that on top of, together with those who registered beforehand and afterwards, you're looking at about 1.4% of firearm owner ID card holders who are telling state police that they have a banned firearm. And I understand the FOID card metric. Some people, even I've seen statisticians on Twitter saying that that's not the appropriate number to use, and you should really look at this chart and you should look at that chart. And the bottom line is we don't know. We don't know how many people who have banned firearms have not registered their banned firearms. We just don't know. And I guess that's, one big question that we may try to find out sometime, but do we really want to know? Is it an invasion of privacy to know? Or how is that logistically within the bounds of constitutional rights and liberties and such? So if you remember yesterday, we did talk about the latest filing from the state asking the question of is the gun ban registry violation of the Fifth Amendment? And I just want to review this because we do have State Representative Bob Morgan who made this statement last month. I think actually back in November. He made this statement when the FOID card registration numbers were pretty low. You had State Representative Bob Morgan sharing his thoughts about people who would register their firearms eventually, he said.
This is new for the state of Illinois. As you noted, historically, we've registered people with our FOID card registration. This is the first time we're registering weapons themselves. I also think there are a lot of individuals who have these weapons. They're considering whether to sell them to someone out of state, which is a provision in the law that they're allowed to do. So I do think this is a function of cramming for the test, that people will wait till the last minute. They'll see, there's obviously, we're still waiting for a ruling from the Federal Court of Appeals. Some people are waiting for that. But I also expect that number to increase as people recognize that they want to be law-abiding citizens, and they want to be consistent with state law, and they will register their existing legacy weapons. Otherwise, they're risking their FOID card. And I think the vast majority of people are just committed to being law-abiding citizens the way they are now.
But the first offense of being found without a registered firearm is a misdemeanor. And I believe that Illinois State Police have said that that won't trigger somebody losing their firearm owner ID card privileges. Second offense is a Class 3 felony, and that would trigger somebody losing their FOID card. But even before you get to that, right, that's being found in possession of a banned firearm that's not registered, meaning you're going to the gun range, you get pulled over for speeding, they see that you haven't registered a firearm, but you're a FOID card holder. Sir, do you have any firearms in the vehicle? Yes, officer, I have some firearms in the vehicle. They look and they see it's a AR-15, and they look on the leads system and they say, Joe Schmo has not registered this banned firearm. Okay, well then we'll go ahead and write you up for that misdemeanor. That's that, right? And a misdemeanor first offense, if it's prosecuted locally by your state's attorney, if they make that a top priority. If they don't, then I guess the case just kind of languishes there. But either way, you have that's if you're found in possession of a banned weapon without registering. But Illinois State Police even said that there's no penalty spelled out in the law for somebody who registers their firearms late. And even in this court filing from the state in response to the Fifth Amendment allegations, they say that there are three reasons why they believe that the law does not violate self-incrimination. It says, first, the endorsement affidavit is a voluntary benefit that exempts owners of certain assault weapons from otherwise applicable criminal penalties. If it is not, it is not directly a criminal. Let me start that over. Gotta love legalese. All right. First, the endorsement affidavit is a voluntary benefit that exempts owners of certain assault weapons from otherwise applicable criminal penalties. It is not directed at the criminality of the suspect, and the act of submitting an affidavit does not constitute a confession of criminality. Second, no one's compelled to submit an affidavit. Here's the key here. The government has no authority to impose any criminal or economic penalty on residents who are eligible to submit an affidavit, but for whatever reason decline to do so. I think that is a crucial sentence there. It kind of just goes into, here we are, we're looking at the registration rates, and they're low. So obviously these numbers we're going to see possibly in a certain frequency. Illinois State Police have yet to tell me from weeks ago what kind of frequency they're going to have in showing these numbers. But clearly, the registration numbers, as you see, an additional 5,867 individuals filing in the 2.5 weeks after the deadline. But also what's interesting, the county breakdown Illinois State Police provide here. And you can see the number of individuals completing an affidavit, the number of endorsement affidavits total per county. And this is all pre-deadline. Of course, Cook County had the most, 6,364 individuals completing an affidavit. I think, what was it, Pope County? How big is Pope County? Pope had five people. There's probably, everybody knows who those 5 people probably are. Pope County had 5 individuals file an endorsement affidavit. What's also interesting is out of state. 4 people from out of state registered banned firearms with Illinois. Why? Not sure. Is that some kind of Scribner's error, as they say around these parts? Not sure, but regardless, you have a total of 29,357 that registered banned firearms before the deadline, but after the deadline, an additional 5,867. So when we chatted with Attorney Thomas DeVore yesterday, got his reaction to some of the low registration numbers, and the governor saying that hey, things are expensive. Firearms are expensive, especially when it comes to what the governor says are assault weapons. Here's Attorney Thomas DeVore.
Well, I think what the governor is experiencing, and I personally believe it's healthy, even though I never advise anybody to break the law, is that when you start, and this would be the same response I would give you, Greg, if you had a bunch of ultra-right conservatives pushing conservative ideologies on the far end of that spectrum, and how those who maybe lean left or more liberal would respond too. is that you have to govern in the middle, and the governor doesn't care about that whatsoever. You have to govern in the middle. And when he passed this ultra liberal policy, people just overwhelmingly said, okay, that's fine. We're not going to listen to you, because people are always in control, whether they know it or not. And there's nothing that the governor can do about it. He, under no set of facts, has any ability to force what is probably right now millions of gun owners to do something they don't want to do. I mean, and so ultimately what I think he's witnessing and experiencing, and we're seeing in our state, is when enough people, regardless of their political ideology, say no, there's nothing government can do about it whatsoever.
So again, Tom DeVore just reacting to the numbers and the governor's reaction to those numbers when we chatted with him yesterday. If you missed that conversation, I would encourage you to go check out the full YouTube interview there, and you can find that just searching Bishop on Air. So clearly, we'll continue to track this. We've got a couple of big things that are still coming up, including the Southern District of Illinois federal judge that's going to be, getting to the merits of the gun ban challenge in the Southern District. Of course, this filing we just reviewed yesterday and a bit today is on that Fifth Amendment challenge in that case, but they're going to be moving forward on the merits of the Second Amendment, maybe the vagueness challenge as well. So no more preliminary actions from the Southern District courts. They're going to be moving forward with evidentiary hearings. So we'll watch that closely, bring you the latest there. We've also got later on this year in May some cases on challenging the firearm owner ID card. So we'll watch that coming up as well and keep you posted on those times. So a lot to come, including whatever transpires at the Illinois State House. That's what I do in my full-time gig. I run over to the State House and I monitor what's going on there. You've got possible gun legislation, including a measure from State Senator Julie Morrison that would revoke a FOID card, or rather revoke a driver's license if somebody doesn't comply with turning over their revoked FOID card. So that's an interesting one we'll watch. You've got others raising concern about a bill filed back in October last year that would increase the state police revocation fund from, I think, $3 million to $10 million. That's stuck in committee right now. It has not advanced out of the Senate, has not advanced out of the House. It's stuck in committee. We'll see where that goes. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of moving pieces all throughout the spring as we watch what happens at the Illinois State House. So appreciate you guys checking in, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. The ongoing migration crisis impacting the United States and states like Illinois, even though we're 1,000 plus miles from the southern U.S. border, it's impacting our tax dollars right here in the land of Lincoln. And what is going to happen here? You had the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday issue a split decision. What was it, 5-4? Not much indication as to why, but they did intercede in the case brought by the federal government trying to move razor wire along the border of Texas and Mexico. So now they can remove that razor wire. For what purpose? They say it's to keep the Border Patrol safe, but obviously it's allowing people to cross the border illegally, not going through a port. So, are they going to cross illegally and claim asylum, or are they going to cross through a port legally and claim asylum? Obviously, we've had millions of people cross the border in the past few years, and it's impacting you right here in the state of Illinois. Welcome back. It's Bishop on Air. I appreciate you guys checking in. I did want to just touch base on this briefly for a couple of different points. Yesterday, there was an article in the newspaper that had President Joe Biden talking about the border, saying that something needs to be done about the border. He asked for more money from Congress. And it's kind of interesting because it seems to be one of the first instances of at least the White House or the president indicating it's a crisis at the border and it's a serious problem at the border. And I know that the U.S. House is moving forward with impeachment proceedings against the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. So we'll be seeing what happens there. But yesterday, the Supreme Court interceded in a case that says that the federal government can temporarily remove some razor wire while the case continues on its merits. So the Supreme Court did decide to intercede in that case. So how is all this impacting Illinois? Obviously, we've got more than 30,000 migrants who have been sent to Illinois, a sanctuary state, from the southern border. You've got Governor Texas Greg Abbott. He's obviously been involved in helping transport these migrants to states like Illinois and cities like Chicago who have sanctuary city policies. And that's after they're getting inundated. 1 million is a big number. And then when you extrapolate that over 3 years and it's 8+ million, if not more, that's something that's impacting all across the border. And you got to think these towns on the southern U.S. border with Texas there and Mexico, Eagle Pass, and other places, El Paso, they don't have the resources for this. So the sanctuary states and cities who have said, hey, we're a welcoming city. We won't go after you if you're here undocumented. Well, they obviously signaled a certain signal, and now that they've gotten tens of thousands of these non-citizen migrants who are saying they're asylum seekers, who decided not to cross the ports or instead wanted to cross the border illegally, now they're showing up in droves. And there seems to be the obvious realization that this is a growing concern. Here's Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday. Now, this was at an event after he took part in a Roe v. Wade anniversary roundtable. Apparently, Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973 yesterday, but clearly with the case that was decided, what was that, last year? Was that either way, the recent U.S. Supreme Court precedent saying that the issue of abortion is going back to the states. So clearly, Democrats looking to make abortion a major priority. So what's fascinating here is the governor, after taking part in a closed-door Roe v. Wade roundtable discussion with several other advocates for access to abortion, he was asked about, seems like Democrats are going to make abortion a big key issue here. What about the issue that Republicans are making a big key issue, which seems to be polling really well, and that's that the border's a mess and it needs to be fixed, and Democrats are at the helm for this.
Well, as with every election cycle, the Republicans come up with complete falsehoods, lies that they want to run on. Here's the truth. Democrats have been at the table for decades looking for comprehensive immigration reform. Democrats are the ones who want to secure the border and make sure that we have an immigration system that makes sense, and that we look at all of the people that are in the United States today who are undocumented immigrants and have been here for years and give them some kind of a pathway to being documented, being legal, and so on. It's Democrats that have stood up for that, not Republicans. Now the Republicans want to grandstand, want to make this an issue in the 2024 elections once again because they are fear-mongering and telling lies in doing so. So we're at the table. President Biden is at the table. Democrats in Washington are at the table ready to pass something. And it's Republicans who've said, we don't want to give Biden this. We're going to walk away and just let the nation remain in an immigration crisis, even though Democrats are ready to do something to solve this problem.
Well, and again, it sounds like what the governor's saying there is that the border is going to stay open until you give us amnesty. I don't know, maybe that's too, much of a overcharacterization, a gross mischaracterization of what the governor's saying. But I mean, he talked about we got to find a path of these to citizenship for the tons of people who have been here for years undocumented. We've got to find an easier path for people to come into the country and to become a citizen. Okay, I mean, listen, I guess that's fine, but is that amnesty he's looking for? So we're not going to do anything on the border until the Democrats get their way. But Republicans, from my understanding, have just been saying, close the border. And then you can have conversation, like stop the bleeding And then we can have conversations about the politics here, the amnesty provisions, or maybe we have different routes for people to be able to, train themselves to become a citizen of the United States, to take the test, to get the naturalization process underway faster. And that's clearly something I think a lot of people would be interested in. And then you've got the questions of work permits and how that process plays out. So clearly there's a myriad things that are impacted by the border conversation, but I think that what Republicans have been looking for is a standalone effort of the White House to close the border. Then the conversation could be had about all the other provisions that people want. But again, the governor seems to say that it's the Republicans who are just walking away from the table saying, oh, we're not going to give Biden this. So the migration crisis continues with, again, millions and millions of people crossing the southern U.S. border. But the governor also recognizing in Chicago, things not going that great. There's been constant reports of poor shelter quality and so on. And the governor was asked about the handling of the shelters in Chicago by Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. Here's the governor's response.
I'm deeply concerned. We do not have enough shelter as it is in the city of Chicago. The city has not told the state where they would like us to put our resources to build new shelters or help them build new shelters. So we can't help if they don't identify those locations. And we need to make sure that we're not ending shelter capacity, as the city is now planning to do, at the end of winter. If you think this problem is going to end when the temperature warms up, it's not. We still need shelter for people. So I'm deeply concerned, and I'm hoping that at least the plan that I read this morning, actually in your column, is not one that they will end up carrying out.
That was a response to a question from a Politico reporter. So if you want to find the column that the governor is mentioning there, you can find that through Politico. So clearly the immigration issue not going to go anywhere. We'll see how the issue plays out in presidential politics. We tried talking about this briefly yesterday with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis bowing out of the Republican nomination process and Nikki Haley staying in. Kind of fascinating to see how Trump's going to handle it. And of course, he says he's going to deport people the minute he gets into office if he gets elected. And I don't know what the polling suggests, but we'll see how it all solidifies and morphs and amalgamizes and continues to roll down the hill. As we keep you updated each and every day. And of course, the Illinois State House could be dealing with this as well, because they got that new migrant working group, the new arrivals working group with Democrats, while Republicans are like, we need to end the state's sanctuary state policies. Pretty incredible just to sit back here and watch all this unfold. So hopefully you're in staying informed and checking in each and every weekday morning. Guys, I got to get out of here, all right? Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, follow along on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. It is Bishop on Air, anywhere. And if you want to support the show, check out some of the merchandise below, bishoponair.com. All right, no, seriously, guys, I appreciate it. We'll check back in tomorrow morning. We'll see what transpires over the next 24 hours. You guys have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day. Big shout outs to Warbot 3000, Mark Steeler, or is it Stelzer? Roseanne, always good to see you. Who else we got? Carla, Tenebris, Dave, Hypnolama. Some of you guys are OGs. Joe Baker, Kevin G, Randall, ABW, Dave G, Oscar Mike, Nakuda. Who else we got? Roman, what's up, buddy? In Your Midst on Twitter. I'll have to look at that. Shared a link, usafacts.org. Maternal early childhood health. I have to take a look at that. Appreciate that. Hazel Eyes. Just giving a shout out to those in the chat live. If you want to be part of it, just check us out each and every weekday morning, all right? Hey guys, seriously, thank you so much for taking part, and we'll see you here tomorrow morning. Same Bishop channel, same Bishop time. Maybe I'll wear a cape, I don't know. All right, later on, guys. All right, some final names to drop. What was that? George P., Bill, Dimitri, Chubby Guy Customs, Fun with Fuel, Travis Merica. You guys have a great day, all right?